Welcome to Boys in the Hood TV. Today we're going to be discussing the death of a Grape Street Crip who was gunned down by a 10-line Gangster Crip at a bus station. Now, the 10-line Gangster Crips are a relatively small gang on the east side of Watts, whose hood is located between Wilmington and Mona Boulevard. Their main block is 110th Street. Two of their main rivals are the PJ Watts Crips and the Grape Street Watts Crips. Now, although 10-line is a much smaller gang, they have actively, throughout the years, got active with any rivals, no matter the hood size. Now, the 10 lines are known for robberies, murders, and narcotic sales. And like most smaller blocks, the 10 lines had a chip on their shoulder and was willing to go to war with anybody at any time. And on October 4th, 2007, 23-year-old Grape Street Crip Willie Miles was standing at the bus stop on 103rd, where he was a regular at. Now, Miles had already done 2 years in federal penitentiary for a burglary charge and had just got out in 2003. So he was constantly using public transportation as his means to get around. Now, it's said that most people who rode this bus knew Miles as a gang member of Grape Street because he constantly made it known that he was from there. Now, this brash behavior will ultimately bring Miles problems. Only 3 weeks prior, Miles was approached by a man on a bike who he would have words with about him running his mouth. But Miles would say he didn't give a shit. But on this Thursday, as Miles still waiting for the bus, a 10-line Gangster Crip named Baby Apo would walk up to Miles and start pressing him. He immediately asked Miles, "Where you from?" And Miles replied, "Grape Street." Now, the two would continue to argue before, out of nowhere, Baby Apo pulled out a gun and asked him again, "Where you from?" And Miles repeated, "Grape Street." And that's when Apo opened fire. Miles would be hit twice in his chest at point-blank range. Miles would collapse on the ground as Baby Apo would take off running. Now, as he jumped into a nearby vehicle waiting, his house slippers would fall off as he sped away. Now, witnesses would run to Miles' aid and immediately call 911. The EMTs would arrive shortly after and transport Miles to the hospital. Now, Miles, still alive, would remain in critical condition. Police would immediately start their investigation and canvass the area. They would find a slipper at the scene and collect it as evidence. Now, witnesses would tell officers that the suspect was a black male who had fled in the white vehicle after the shooting and dropped that slipper that the police had just collected. Now, afterwards, the police would send the slippers off for DNA testing. Now, as police continued their investigation over the next few weeks, on October 27, Willie Miles sadly would not recover from his injuries, but he will be pronounced dead shortly after. Now, with this news of Miles' death, this case has now been upgraded to homicide. Now, also around this same time, the DNA results will come back in. There will be 6 potential suspects, which included a man named Albert Jackson, also known as Baby Apo. Now, police knew him to be a member of the 10 line. Now, with this new evidence, detectives would bring in the witnesses and show them a 6-photo lineup, which included Baby Apo. Now, all 3 witnesses would positively identify Apo as the lone gunman who killed Miles. Now, there were officers at the station who had knew Baby Apo due to his extensive arrest record over the years. Now, this would lead to officers putting out a warrant for Apo's arrest, but they would not be able to find him. Now, Baby Apo would evade the police before finally being arrested on September of 2012 by the sheriffs in Compton. He would eventually be charged with the murder of Willie Miles. Baby Apo would obviously plead not guilty to this murder. Now, by the time his trial took place in 2013, all 3 witnesses would take the stand. Carmen Rivera would testify that she watched the suspect walk up to Miles and argue with him before pulling out a gun and shooting him and fleeing the scene. The second witness, Sandoval, who was driving past at the time, would state that she saw Baby Apo run into his car with a gun in his hand. Third witness, a man named Jose Vallejo, who was at a stoplight, heard the gunshots, and when he looked through his rearview mirror, he saw Baby Apo running back to his car. Now, gang experts would also take the stand, and they would tell the jury that they've known Baby Apo for being a 10-line Gangster Crip after having multiple run-ins with him over the years. Now, Baby Apo's defense would argue that this was a case of mistaken identity, that baby Apo wasn't at the scene of the crime that day or anywhere near the bus station. Ultimately, in the end, Albert Jackson, aka Baby Apo, will be found guilty of first-degree murder and gang enhancements. He will receive 25 years for the murder charge and an additional 25 years for the gang enhancements. He will be sentenced to a total of 50 years to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 15 years. I would like to thank everybody for tapping in, and I'll see y'all next time.